still taking place in this blank void. It's actually the place all your AirPods go when you lose them. I bet you thought that this was rattling around your car's floor mats. Nope, it's mine now. Into the pile you go. Look, it's been a busy week, from Republicans trying to oust Liz Cheney from House leadership to California gearing up for the recall election of Governor Gavin Newsom. Multiple candidates have already filed to run against him, one of whom released this ad.
This beauty has proven he can do it.
Pretty boy.
This beast can. This time, make the right choice for California and your family. Recall the beauty and elect the nicest, the smartest beast you've ever met. John Cox.
Now, all of that is completely idiotic, but I'm going to choose to focus on the fact that he seems to think the problem in Beauty and the Beast was about choosing between the two, when everyone knows that the problem was, how are these two fucking? We know it's happening, we know it's great, and we know it's weird. But how exactly does it work? Do they take special precautions around the flames to avoid burning, or is the burning part of it? Same question, but about the feather duster and sneezing. Is the sneezing part of it? I hope the sneezing is part of it. Now, that guy really committed to the bear metaphor, even bringing one to a campaign event, only to complain the next day that the coverage yesterday was all about the bear. And yeah, no shit it was. You brought a literal dancing bear, the universal metaphor for distracting gimmick people pay attention to instead of whatever the fuck you're talking about. Now, meanwhile, the week saw the latest attempts to undermine the democratic process, with Texas and Florida continuing the trend of Republicans enacting new voting restrictions. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis, a man with a vibe that screams, "We'll flirt with your teenage friends," signed a bill live on Fox and Friends for some reason that targets ballot drop boxes and voting by mail. Meanwhile, in Texas, their new voter suppression bill initially featured a line about the importance of protecting the purity of the ballot box, leading to this awkward exchange with one of its sponsors.
Did you look at the history before using that word?
No. The only thing, if we were to have a discussion, maybe over some coffee or a drink, somebody I could go into the details of Article 1 really well. I've read the debates in the journals of the Convention of 1875 on that, for that thing, but I'm not familiar with the one.
You may have missed it then. That provision was drafted specifically to disenfranchise black people, black voters, in fact, following the Civil War. Did you know that?
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I bet you are. Although, I'm guessing you're less sorry to hear the historical connotations of that phrase and more sorry to hear that publicly, especially in front of all those fucking cameras. But perhaps the stupidest election-related story is currently taking place in Arizona, where Republicans have been trying to relitigate the presidential election by recounting all the ballots in the state's most populous county.
This is yet another tally of the nearly 2.1 million ballots in Maricopa County. But this so-called audit is unlike any other. These are ballot counters heading into a shift.
Have you ever done election counting before?
No, but there's nothing to it. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's not reassuring. Normally when a guy in those sunglasses says there's nothing to it, it's pretty obvious, he's just seconds away from reversing his brand new ATV through the front window of a Fuddruckers. And for the record, this recount is a total joke. The audit company in charge, Cyber Ninjas, is owned by an advocate of the Stop the Steal movement, and obvious bias aside, the process alone seems pretty slipshod. Arizona's Secretary of State has expressed alarm over accounts of ballots being left unattended and untrained workers using different rules to count ballots, all of which the audit's official Twitter account disputed as baseless claimies, which doesn't exactly fill you with confidence about their attention to detail-ease. And it is genuinely insane to swoop into a county that, remember, has already done multiple audits of its election count, finding no evidence of fraud, with the attitude of, okay, but what if we do it shitty this time? And it gets even worse when you consider the Secretary of State is now receiving death threats. And all of this is so that they can chase down crazy conspiracy theories like this one.
There's accusations that 40,000 ballots were flown in.
To Arizona?
Into Arizona, and it was stuffed into the box, okay? And it came from the southeast part of the world, Asia, okay? And what they're doing is to find out if there's bamboo in the paper.
Why do you check for
because
bamboo?
They use bamboo in their paper processing.
Who's they?
People in Southeast Asia.
Wow. Southeast Asians attempted to sway the 2020 election in Arizona via bamboo ballots. Sounds like something your drunkest uncle would say before passing out at his niece's 6th birthday party. And look, that is obviously nonsense, and in fairness to that man, he doesn't believe any of it. He runs a non-profit focused on election fairness and is volunteering, hoping that this process manages to disprove many of these crazy theories, which is a nice idea. The problem is, though, the people behind this recount aren't going to be convinced unless the results swing their way. We know this is true because, again, there have already been multiple audits conducted in Maricopa County, and they weren't convinced by the results. And the thing is, Arizona is playing a dangerous game here, and things are probably only going to get more volatile. Put it this way, Arizona's recount is kind of like that guy bringing a bear to his event, in that it's chaotic, it's pathetically desperate, and we'll all be lucky if nobody gets seriously hurt. And now, this.
And now, Happy Mother's Day from the disappointing men of local news.
I've got a lot of moms, related moms in my family. My wife is a mom, my mom.
Your mom.
My mom, my stepmom, and my mother-in-law. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I got 4 people that I disappoint.
She had kind of hinted that you should know what to get her for this Mother's Day. Did you figure that out?
No, I didn't. And then actually I did suggest something that I thought she wanted. And then she told me, no, that would be a terrible idea.
Mother's Day is Sunday. Do not forget, high temperatures there at 54 degrees. If you have any good ideas for my wife, let me know.
Last year, I remember I got my wife like a $40 bouquet for Mother's Day. It was beautiful. This year, I'm buying for 4 moms, so $10 bouquets all around.
Don't make the same mistake I made. Don't give her a Wonder Bra for Mother's Day.
Nathan, you got your Mother's Day gift ready for Mom and your wife?
Yeah.
Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns hair, specifically black hair, the subject that gave us the single greatest Real Housewives entrance of all time, when Kenya Moore crashed Marlo Hampton's wig launch with a marching band to promote her own line of hair products, and Portia Williams reacted like this.
Even if I did agree with Kenya in that fact that people's edges matter, they don't matter today, bitch. You are wrong. This is absolutely insane, okay? So today I don't agree. But tomorrow, yes, my edges matter and I'll be using the product.
You know what? As per usual, Portia is right about a number of things there. Kenya is wrong. Edges do matter. And I, like Portia, will also be using the product tomorrow. Monday is my wash day. And look, I realise I'm not the ideal person to talk about black hair. I look like I still go to an old-timey barber named Valentino and ask for the tidy Liza Minnelli. And I also know that the danger is when a white guy on TV starts confidently talking about black hair, even with the best of intentions, it can end something like this.
I didn't want the little tea light to overheat, and then all of a sudden we've got breaking news here at the channel.
I told you, if the sprinkler systems come on, I'm done for the day.
Yeah, that is not
sitting up here looking like a mop.
Yeah, you don't want sprinkler system and a beautiful weave because they do not go together. Wow, you're beautiful. You said it was a weave, right?
It's not. Oh.
Wow. That is the exact right reaction to announcing your black co-worker's hair is a weave live on air. Getting up from your desk and just running away. Running forever, running until your life fades behind you and your feet touch the ocean. Now, you should know, those 2 co-workers seem to have gotten over that incident, putting out a video titled Blaine and Layla Discuss Hair Weave a Rebuttal, where Blaine says he's learned the difference between quick weaves, lace fronts and sew-ins because of their friendship. But the fact is, on the whole, white people don't really understand a lot about black hair. And by the way, if your first reaction to that was, hey, not all white people, maybe look inside yourself and figure out why that is your response to things. But importantly, that lack of understanding and lack of interest in understanding can have real consequences from the personal to the professional, as you probably know, either from experience or from seeing stories like this.
Chastity Jones was tangled in a nearly 10-year legal battle after she says an employer took back a job offer at an Alabama call center because she refused to cut her hair.
She said, "Are those dreadlocks in your hair?" And I just looked at her and I was like, "These?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Yes, they are." She said, "Well, we can accept that here."
Can you imagine turning someone away who wants to work at a call centre? The universe's most thankless job. A place where you answer the phone and immediately there's an angry woman screaming at you because some of the broccolini in her HelloFresh kit didn't smell right and now she wants to speak to Mr. Fresh. If you have someone who wants to do that job, let them. What's on their head has nothing to do with it. They could show up to work in a wig made of living ferrets and they deserve not only that position but double whatever you're paying them. The point is, black hair and hairstyles are frequently yet another pretext for discrimination. So tonight, let's talk about it. And let's start by understanding why black hair is so important. For centuries, black people in Africa innovated ways to protect and prolong the health of their hair. And that practice has continued and evolved into beautiful and distinct hairstyles with a deep connection to culture and heritage. And for as long as that has happened, white people have been unable to handle it. One of the first things slave traders would do was shave the heads of enslaved people, which erased their cultural identity. And black hair has historically been described in dehumanizing fashion, with racial typologist Charles Hamilton Smith describing his hierarchy of three main types of people: the bearded Caucasian type, the beardless Mongolic type, and the woolly-haired tropical type. And the only time woolly-haired tropical is an acceptable term to use is if you're talking about Madagascar's woolly lemur, a tropical little sweetie who always looks like he just accidentally replied all. Other than that, it's off limits. Now, by the late 19th century, beauty companies were advertising products like skin lighteners and hair straighteners, reinforcing the idea that black hair was dirty and unkempt, and the closer your appearance was to whiteness, the better, like in this ad from 1900 from Magnetic Comb that promised to destroy the hair germs on your head and take you from a curly-haired black person to a straight-haired white one. And the desire to make black hair smoother and straighter was so strong, just listen to the sheer delight this British newsreel takes in showing you the process.
Combs come into play. Kept constantly heated, they are passed through each section of the hair until all trace of kinkiness disappears. It's not all plain sailing naturally, and it's not quite a permanent, if you follow me. If the hair gets really wet or steamed up, it unstraightens itself and back come the kinks.
Oh no! Hearing that beauty standard reinforced in that particular voice is definitely a sign that something has gone terribly wrong. And I know, for some viewers, passing a hot metal comb through the hair to straighten it might look like a curio from the distant past, but I guarantee some of you were just transported back to being 8 years old, sitting on a high stool in the kitchen at 6 a.m. on school picture day, holding your ears down while your mum or grandma gets the hot comb uncomfortably close to your scalp. For some, the smell of burning hair is a sign that something's wrong, but for others, it brings back memories. By the 1960s and 70s, though, the embrace of black hair's natural texture and culturally significant styles had become a radical act of self-acceptance and political power.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?
White people. The answer is white people. That question answers itself, just like the answer to the questions, who lets their dogs kiss them in the mouth, who wants to pick apples for fun, and who's coming to dinner on Ina Garten's show. The answer is white people. But despite the natural hair movement, white people's discomfort and ignorance around black hair has very much remained. One study found black women were 80% more likely to agree with the statement, "I have to change my hair from its natural state to fit in at the office," and another found that black women with natural hairstyles were perceived to be less professional, less competent, and less likely to be recommended for a job interview. The point is, the way your hair is perceived, and therefore the way you are perceived, can manifest in all sorts of ways.
I know the anxiety that people have after getting their hair done, then like, okay, what's gonna happen when I go to work? Are they gonna say anything?
You know, it's a big thing in the workplace. A lot of people don't want to draw attention to themselves, so they try to do the norm.
A lot of the time I would always get people just like saying how like soft my hair is and everything and like wanting to touch it. That's like always a big thing. Touch it. And like adults doing that too.
Yeah,
I'm like,
grown women, like, can I touch it? You know you don't touch no black women here. No, you already know that.
I feel like you're in a zoo.
Look, you obviously shouldn't be made to feel like you're in a zoo ever for any reason. Also, and this is clearly not the point, but if you are touching animals at the zoo, you're doing the zoo wrong. Don't be stressing out the otters by shouting unwanted questions and trying to sneak your hands into the cages to cop a feel. Yes, the bald eagle's feathers are laid, but don't shout, "Yas, queen," and try to pet her. Unlike your co-workers, the eagle will snap your fucking fingers off and you will have it coming. Unfortunately, though, white people's biases and ignorance are often just laying in wait for the right moment to strike.
Jonathan Sutherland is a Penn State football captain and a Dean's List student. But what people are talking about tonight is his hair. That's thanks to this letter. The author is a proclaimed alumnus from decades ago named David Peterson. He calls Sutherland's hair awful, stating his locks are disgusting and are certainly not attractive. He also writes, "We would welcome the reappearance of dress codes for athletes."
Everything about that is upsetting, from the racist attitude to the hurtful language to the fact that he chose to express moral outrage over something in college football. But it's not that the NCAA makes millions off student athletes. Instead, it's, "I can see your hair outside your helmet." Now, that man later explained that he only wrote the letter because I was just disgruntled about some of the hairdos that we're seeing. You think of Penn State as a bunch of clean-cut guys, and "you think of Penn State as" is just not a sentence that ends well under any circumstance, especially when you realise that man actually got a degree from Penn State in 1966, the same year as Jerry Sandusky, who somehow, despite his short hair, turned out to be a heinous sex criminal. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's almost like the haircut doesn't fucking matter. And it starts way before college. You may remember the terrible case of high school wrestler Andrew Johnson, who was basically forced to cut his locks off or forfeit an important wrestling match by a referee. That case made national news, but there are hundreds of others that don't. From the school in Kentucky that once banned, and I quote, dreadlocks and corn rolls, to twin sisters in Massachusetts that received hours of detention because of their braided hair, to this daycare in suburban Chicago.
Mom may like the smell, but according to this note Tiona Norris posted on her Facebook page, Amaya's teacher didn't like it, basically saying,
"Your child stinks. Don't put the coconut oil in her hair." The kids were teasing her.
Norris says Amaya was the only black child in her preschool class at the Raggedy Ann Learning Center in Elmhurst.
I was just hurt for my child.
Especially after Norris says she met with the teacher and school administrator and learned the children in the class never complained. It was just the teacher who didn't like the smell. We called the school and left several messages. We visited and got this.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Tucker from Channel 2 News.
Goodbye.
Wow. That feels like a perfectly staged 5-second play encapsulating the history of race relations in America. A black person trying to discuss racial inequality with a white person who then immediately says, "Goodbye." So black people from an early age are often told that their hair is unattractive and needs to be corrected. And that is already just a lot before you even start getting into all the ways that society makes it difficult to navigate the world because of your hair. Even just buying hair products can be an unnecessary challenge, with black hair products routinely locked in a case where someone has to come with a key to get it for you, or maybe even walk it to the register, in the same aisle where products for white people that cost just as much or more are simply sitting out on the shelves. And the explanation for this is never great.
So I went and found the manager, and I said, "I'm waiting for the key for shampoo and conditioner." I said, "But let me ask you, why are the black hair products locked up and not the white hair products?" He said, and another associate said, "Well, people have been stealing."
Yeah. Now, that Walmart claims that it was based on data of theft in the store. But when a town council member asked to see that data, the store instructed her to call 1-800-WALMART. And just out of interest, on a touch-tone phone, which button do you press to hear the bullshit data used to justify locking up $4 Eco-Styler gel? Is that like number 7, or do you have to ask for an associate first? So it is already hard enough to get products to do your hair at home, but finding a qualified stylist can be even harder. The cosmetology industry mostly revolves around and trains for caring for straight, non-textured hair. So there is no guarantee that a stylist in your area can work with black hair. Just watch one TikToker call 23 salons in their hometown and get nothing but responses like these.
I was wondering if you guys worked with African American hair, specifically 4C type?
We do not. None of the girls do here, no. We don't really have a lot of experience, so I would say that you're probably better to keep looking around.
I was wondering if you guys were able to work with African American hair, specifically 4C type?
Oh, hold on just a moment. Let me ask. Is anybody familiar with African American hair? Not very much.
Yeah, that's not great. But I do love that that receptionist is asking the entire staff like she just got called as a phone a friend on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Hey, Donna, it's the $25,000 question. Can you do a silk press and bump those ends? Final answer, she can't. And this isn't just a problem in salons. Even in Hollywood, stylists who are both familiar with black hair and who are in the stylist union are rare, and actors definitely know when their production has failed to hire one.
I was on this show. They made me a series regular. I was hella pumped. Walked in a hair and makeup trailer first time. Oh shit, I'm about to like get paid. Let me see. Homegirl, this white lady, she tapped my head.
Yeah.
Not lying, she tapped it, sprayed some water, didn't brush, didn't comb, and left. And I was like, oh, wow.
Now, I actually recommend going back and watching each actor in that clip as he tells that story, because you really get the sense that every one of them identifies with what he's saying there. And it's not ideal that for a lot of hairstylists, their strategy to deal with black clients is the same that you would use to get your cat off the kitchen counter. Give them a little spritz, and then give them a pat on the head so they know you're not mad. And when you consider all of the obstacles that get placed in the path of black people, it's understandably pretty hard to take when white people wear the exact same hairstyles that they get judgment for. From Bo Derek, famously wearing braids in the movie 10, to Adele and Miley Cyrus trying on black hairstyles for fun, to this Comme des Garçons fashion show at which the models wore lace-front cornrow wigs, which were awful in every possible way. I mean, just look at that thing. There is enough room between each braid to land a fucking plane there. And you don't even have to look closely to see the model's dark hair through the lace. Come on. You put a wig cap on first, then you put the wig on. You grab your gotta-be spray or wig glue, you melt that lace, and you lay those edges down so well they fall asleep. There are only two situations where that appalling level of wig application is acceptable. Either you're in the middle of hosting an episode of SNL, or you're posing as a British nanny to stay close to your children after your divorce. That is it. And the thing is, white people appropriating black hairstyles isn't just infuriating. It can directly make it harder for black people to fight discrimination concerning their hair.
There was a court case in 1981, a discrimination suit filed by a black woman named Renee Rogers. She'd worked for American Airlines and she wore her hair in cornrows. Her legal argument was that her hairstyle was a part of her cultural heritage. The judge ruled against her in federal court because he said she got her hair done soon after the movie 10 came out, and therefore there was no legal basis for saying it was cultural heritage because she was doing something that essentially was imitating how Bo Derek styled her hair.
Yeah, it's true. Among the reasons he dismissed her case, the judge suggested that a black person wearing a traditionally black hairstyle was just copying a white celebrity who stole it from black people, which is just ridiculous. Hairstyles have cultural roots. They don't just come out of nowhere to sweep the nation, with the sole exception, of course, of the Rachel, which wasn't appropriated from any culture. It simply sprang forth fully formed from the concept known as the 90s. And I wish I could say that that is a thing of the past, but you know it isn't. Chastity Jones, the woman you saw earlier, spent years appealing her case, only to lose, in part, because judges interpreted civil rights law to protect against discrimination based only on immutable or unchangeable characteristics associated with race, like skin color. So for decades, courts have found that hairstyles, even though they are deeply tied to racial identity, are not covered. And all of that means that a younger generation can still end up having to deal with this shit.
19-year-old Destiny Tompkins has worked at this Banana Republic store at the Westchester Mall in White Plains for just about a month. She was called into a meeting with her manager on Wednesday, caught completely off guard by what happened next.
He was like, yeah, so the district manager came in, she pointed out something about your hair. And I'm like, okay, so what's wrong with my hair? He said, it's a little too urban and unkempt for our look and for our image. We were just wondering, like, if you could just take them out.
Okay. Putting aside the use of the word urban there, a level of tone deafness on par with naming your store Banana Republic, just take them out? Those are words from someone who has zero idea of what it took to put them in the first place. That is coming from a man who, I'm guessing, has never spent 7 hours in a salon chair with an iPad full of movies and a backpack full of snacks. Now, you should know, the store called that unacceptable and the manager was fired. But the problem is, since professionalism gets defined by white standards and expectations, black hair is more likely to crash into those expectations. So, what can we do? Well, For some of the smaller issues you've seen tonight, there have been changes. Some chain stores, including Walmart, have announced that they will no longer be locking up black hair products, which feels like the least that they can do, but it is a start. A bigger change would be to pass laws like Crown Acts or creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. Versions have already become law in these 11 states, and while the language varies, generally, they expand the definition of race in anti-discrimination laws to include traits historically associated with race, like protective hairstyles such as braids, locks, and twists. Unfortunately, Crown Act bills have repeatedly met with Republican opposition. In Utah, in one recent Zoom hearing on their bill, State Senator Darren Owens, who voted against it, made a point of first addressing the bill's advocates like this.
Let me make a comment. You people are beautiful. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to show you. I was in a store the other day, and you won't be able to see this picture. But this gentleman in front of me, a black man, had two young children, and they were just having fun around up and down the aisle. And I don't normally take pictures of children, but they were adorable, two black children, because they're just the cutest kids in the world. One has cornrows and one of them dreadlocks. I wish you could see that.
What are you doing, you exceptionally weird man? Just to recap, he started off there by telling a group of black women, "You people are beautiful," then proceeded to say, "I don't normally take pictures of children, but," a perfectly acceptable sentence until the "but" part, then launched into a story about how he keeps photos of strangers' children on his phone, all of which evokes a response perhaps best summed up by this expression, which I'd argue is an absolute masterclass in how to say "the fuck" using only your eyebrows. And if you are wondering how he got from that to voting against the bill, his argument was that he felt existing laws were sufficient and that it almost looks like we're trying to do something that doesn't exist. But this discrimination isn't something that doesn't exist. It's something that doesn't exist for white men who've never had to think about it before. The consequences of hair-based discrimination are very real. Just listen to Connecticut State Senator Gary Winfield make the case for his state's Crown Act in the run-up to it passing into law by talking about his 3-year-old daughter.
Right now, she runs through life with all of the energy that she has, with all of the beauty that she has, with her hair natural. That's who she is. It's not just what sits on top of her head, it is who she is. But I want her to be able to participate in this world fully. And so even if she runs through this world with her natural hair, there will be a discussion about what it is to run through this world with her natural hair. And what she will have to learn, whether she makes the choice to run through this world with her natural hair or not, is that a part of her is not acceptable.
That's awful. It's infuriating that black children have to add hair discrimination to the long list of things that they're already forced to think about, like the threat of police violence, the danger of harassment by racist white people, and of course, the very real risk of getting photographed by Utah State Senator Darren Owens in a fucking checkout line. That man's daughter and all black people should clearly be able to make choices about their hair based on what they feel like doing with it, rather than, will this get me harassed or fired? If you want to have natural hair, great. You want to straighten your hair? Great. Whatever you like. The point is, black hair shouldn't be viewed, corralled, or judged by white people's comfort because it doesn't belong to white people, it doesn't affect white people, and white people really don't need to have an opinion on it. And our laws should reflect that. And I know that there may be limits to what Crown Acts can accomplish. Even if one passes at the federal level, there could be cases where a white judge is asked to decide whether a specific hairstyle is associated with race and completely fucks it up. But they are a start. And look, if you're not a black person, it's probably easy to hear these stories and think, well, it's just hair. But the thing is, it's not. It's not at all. Black people aren't getting hired or are getting fired. Black students are being teased, taunted, and removed from school, all because of their hair. And Crown Act laws could make a real difference there. And while social stigma and unrealistic beauty standards aren't going to go away overnight, there are a few things that white viewers in particular might want to keep in mind going forward. And to that end, if you are one, there's a message that you should probably hear.
Hi, white people. I'm Uzo Aduba.
I'm Craig Robinson.
Hi, white people. I'm Leslie Jones. What's up, black people? Brothers and sisters, you good? Your mama good? All right, listen, I gotta talk to these white people for a second. I'll see you at the meeting. All right. Look, white people, I know you have lots of questions.
Like, maybe too many questions.
Like, how often do you have to wash black hair?
What is a silk press?
What does a do-rag do?
Well, the good news is we're about to fill you in. We're about to give you the answer to all your questions about black hair.
You ready for it?
You ready for it?
You ready for it?
Okay, here it is. Google it.
Google it.
Fucking Google it.
Fucking Google it.
I mean, it doesn't have to be Google.
It can be fucking Bing, YouTube, Wikipedia. I don't give a shit.
The information is out there.
And once you get the information, you can appreciate all the beauty and hard work it takes to keeping my hair laid and looking good, okay?
And if you're not interested in Googling it, there is another option.
Fuck off.
Leave us the fuck alone.
Fucking off is always an option.
And look, white people, don't tell me you can't figure this out on your own. You figured out Settlers of Catan.
You figured out sourdough bread last year. I think you can Google the word weave.
You can learn what the fuck a box braid is, bitch.
Okay, I think that just about covers it.
Basically, just Google it. Don't touch it.
And there's one more thing.
Don't spray my hair with water and tap my head. I'm not a cat.
Bye.
Goddamn white people.
That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Good night.